Welcome to Ashmont University. I am your professor today, Adam Ashba, and I'm the president of Ashmont Realty. And today we're going to dive into the residential property disclosure. Well, what is a residential property disclosure? Well, on the street, we call it the RPD. And we're going to discuss that in simplified terms right after this. Residential Property Disclosure Form, aka RPD. What is it? Let's go ahead and dive right into it. This is a form that is required by the state of Ohio. It is not optional. It is not something that the seller doesn't have to do. It is required. It doesn't matter if they're selling it for sale by owner or by an agent. Now, what this form is it basically does exactly like its title. It discloses the property details, okay? So before we get started, I want to preface this very clearly. Do not help your client, the seller, fill this out in any way, okay? You cannot steer them. This is something that really protects your seller. And why I say that is, what this is, there's going to be a lot of questions that's going to be asked, direct questions that are asked, yes and no questions. If the answer is yes, please explain. The key to this, folks, is disclose, disclose, disclose. When in doubt, just disclose it. Because you got to remember, no matter what they put on these forms, guys, your buyers are going to have it inspected anyhow. So the fact that one of these forms have no issues on it or any updated information seems a little peculiar to me, to be honest, and I don't trust it. So what you want to do is, nothing's worse when a seller does not disclose, for example, they had a leaky roof and your buyer's buying the home, they have it inspected and it's clear that they have a leaky roof, but the seller just reluctantly disclose that information. So what we want to preface when we give this form to our clients, that they answer this truthfully. Buyers don't care if there's issues with homes. They just care that it's been fixed and you are honest about the issues. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into it after I went through all the disclaimers here. So this form is going to be filled out by your seller. Now, this needs to be filled out before you list the property. When I say that, meaning before you stick it on the MLS, because potential buyers are going to want to review this form. Okay, they're going to want to review it. They're going to want to know what they're getting into. If they do view it, they're going to want to revert back to this form to see if it clarifies of any issues that they might have had. Okay, so very straightforward. Every page needs initialed by all parties, the buyers and the sellers. This is, I see a lot as a broker that buyers or sellers forget to initial each page. It is required. If you notice, every single page needs initialed. So let's go ahead and jump to page 2. Again, do not fill this out in any way for them. Okay, your seller can do this on their own. They can handwrite it, type it, whatever they need, but don't even try to be helpful and put in their names and their property information here. Just let them fill this out on their own, because what you don't want is 6 months after a sale is completed, that the buyer that bought the property is coming back to the seller saying, hey, you didn't tell us that you had a leaky basement. And the seller is going to say, well, Adam told me not to tell you about it because he was sitting down helping me fill this out. When I give them this form, now I will email it to them. So we're not even the same zip code sometimes. But most importantly, back in the old days when we did a lot of paper, which is still fine. You can always upload it to our document files, is you hand that to them and you tell them to complete it at a later date after you leave the house, after you take a look at it. So do not even be in the same room or the same neighborhood when they complete this, because you don't ever want that to come back on you, that you might have helped your client fill this out in case something goes wrong. This form protects your seller. If something happens down the road and the seller disclosed it, the buyer signs off on it. It's very hard for a buyer to win anything in some sort of court argument. I'm not an attorney, but it's hard for them to come up with something. When they verbally told them in written form, verbally and in written form, they acknowledged it and they had it inspected. They know what they were getting themselves into. Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and get started here. Property address, again, they're going to be filling all this information out. The great thing about this form is I just want you to know what it is and the purpose of it so you can convey this to your buyers and sellers. Again, this is something that the seller is going to be filling out, but they're just going to ask them basic questions. Their water supply, their sewer system, yes or no questions. The roof, have you had any issues with the gutters? Any water intrusion, meaning leaks in the house? They're asking you very direct questions. There's either you did or you didn't. And if you did and you're saying you didn't, then that means you're lying and you're being dishonest. So that is not something we want to be part of. Okay. So, worst case scenario, if you have a client that doesn't know what lead-based paint is, be more than happy to educate them what that means, but do not tell them, yes, you have it or no, you don't. Okay. If they don't know, for example, on lead-based paint, just put unknown. If they don't know if they have asbestos, have them, they can put unknown. They're not sure. Okay. The key is the only right answer is the honest answer. Okay. So what they're going to do, they're going to fill this out for you, complete it, and give that back to you. Now, remember, the sellers are going to initial each page. They're going to sign the last page for you. This needs to be completed before you list it on the MLS because your buyers will want to take a look at it. Once you get into contract, your buyer's agent will be filling this out by giving it to the buyers to review, initial each page, look at any remarks that the seller has provided, and they're also going to be signing it as the purchaser and dating it as well. So I know this is a very high level form. The great thing about this, I don't want you to be an expert on this form because this is not in a form that any agent needs to be an expert on. This is something that your seller needs to fill out truthfully. Again, do not help them in any way if they don't understand what some terminology is. More than happy to answer those for them, but do not steer them in any direction. Just have them answer it truthfully. So thank you for watching this tutorial on the residential property disclosure, aka RPD. If you like the information, like and subscribe below. Put any questions if you have them. We'd be happy to answer those, and we'll see you next tutorial.